Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this in the world. I hope you guys are doing okay. So today we are going to be talking about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero and why I won't stop going on about this game. Now there's loads of reasons and I'm going to go through a lot of them. Now obviously I didn't get to go to the event that the Dragon Ball Sparking Zero was being shown at, but I have watched hours worth of gameplay at this point, both on the build that the American players got and on I think the newer build that the Japanese players got. I did hear them saying that there were two different builds. I think the build that the American players got was a little bit older than the Japanese one. So I've watched both. I have seen a few differences and it's really cool to see that developers are taking so much feedback. Like they have listened to what we've said online and they are responding in kind, and apparently according to a lot of these players that went out there to play Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, they were very on the ball and very on the money when it came to feedback. So a lot of the glitches and bugs that I've been noticing, apparently they're on top of it. If they don't fix them by the time the game comes out, or all of them, then I'm sure they will later down the line. I'm very excited for the game because I grew up playing Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi. Hell, I grew up playing all of the Dragon Ball games, so none of them are really alien to me, but this one is looking by far and large the best. I'd say the only other Dragon Ball game that I'd really request over this, and probably not even over this, probably equally, is another Burst Limit game. I thought Burst Limit was so good and so underrated. Budokai Tenkaichi 4 Sparking Zero, I am more than happy with this. This was like my childhood game. Me and one of my best friends would play this for hours on end. So needless to say, when they had the announcement trailer, we almost lost our shit, much like everybody else on the internet.
Yo, bringing this shit back is crazy. Budokai Tenkaichi 4! Bro! I'm gonna pass out! Explain to me how you think you can just do that! Who the fuck said you could do that?
Dragonball games have been more popular than ever right now.
Bro! Is my out?
And the viewership that this game is getting is absolutely insane. It's crazy to me that no matter how many Dragon Ball games come out, and at this point there are thousands of them, even obscure ones you've probably never heard of. Like when I went to Japan, I found so many Dragon Ball games I had never seen or never heard from before. I even picked some of them up, even though I'm probably never going to play them, just to own them. And despite all of that, there is still so much hype for this game. You would think after 1,000 games people would be like, oh, another Dragon Ball game, but I haven't seen people this hyped for an anime fighting game in a very, very long time, if ever. And you're also probably wondering, how come so many people that play traditional fighting games like Tekken and Street Fighter and Soul Calibur and whatnot are so excited for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero? Well, I'm about to list off some reasons why. Now I'm going to reference this tweet here because obviously this is from somebody that probably doesn't know why, so I thought it'd be a good jumping off point. So Father Clef says, don't get me wrong, this visually looks great, but is this not the same type of arena fighter a lot of people claim to dislike except you can fly? And that tweet absolutely blew up. I knew it would when I saw it. When I saw it, it was on about 500,000 views. It's on 3.2 million views at the point of recording this video. I assume it's probably going to have more views by the time this video goes up. And you can imagine that the replies were very quick to shut that bullshit down. Now, I'm not bashing this person because he probably doesn't know. The last Dragon Ball Tenkaichi game that we got was 17 years ago. So a lot of you were just kids at that point. A lot of you were not even born. I know some people that have subscribed to my channel and some people that have recently picked up Tekken are very young. So at that point, you wouldn't really have been aware of Budokai Tenkaichi and what it meant to so many people. So I'm here to break down some reasons why. Now these ain't all the reasons why, because obviously I didn't get my hands on the game, but just based off of the footage that I've seen, I can see that it's very, very similar to Tenkaichi 3 in terms of mechanics and functionality. And so I think I can give a somewhat educated opinion on this, or educated rundown, considering I played the shit out of Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Like honestly, I put a lot of time into Soul Calibur 5 and Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, but I think that time pales in in comparison to Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Anyway, I'm rambling now, so let's get to why I think this game is really going to appeal to not only the casual players but also the FGC. Now, I made a video yesterday which was about being visually stimulating for the players and visually stimulating for the spectators. But this is really important for the spectators because if people are going to be sitting back and watching this, they want to be excited, and you would have a very hard time finding something that looks as exciting as this. So from a visual standpoint, if you had this game at a tournament, for example, I can't imagine the crowd would be very quiet. Not only does this game have amazing dialogue, exclusive dialogue that we've never heard before, not in the series or in previous Dragon Ball games, but the sounds on hits, the sounds on explosions, the way they fly, the way they power up, everything looks absolutely incredible. There are really good little touches in there, like flying through certain parts of the building now only destroy certain parts of the building, so you can actually use the arena to your advantage. In the old Budokai Tenkaichi games, if you flew through a building or a mountain, that whole mountain would just be destroyed. But that's not the case in this one. It destroys specific parts, which obviously can change the trajectory of the match. This game also has a legit combo system. So a lot of the time, arena fighters get a lot of stick for being super basic and very one-dimensional. Most famously, the Ninja Storm games, you only really press circle. Now, I will give the Ninja Storm games some credit because when you do get into the nitty-gritty of them, they can get quite confusing. Not so much with the combos, but just the way you play the game. But the actual combos themselves, there's not too much going on outside of a bit of chakra cancelling and a bit of jump cancelling. It's not as intricate as you might like it to be, although there is something there. However, in Budokai Tenkaichi, and from what I can see Sparking Zero, there are multiple ways to combo. I don't remember all the names for the combo routes because each combo route had its own name, but you can see them demonstrated in a lot of the videos that have gone up from a lot of these content creators like Dotadoya, Globeku, to name a few. You would basically start off by comboing with square, which was like your punches and kicks, and then your heavy button was triangle. Now, the interesting thing about the Budokai Tenkaichi games is that you can use the triangle button in multiple ways. You can use it to hit mid, you can use it to go high, or you can use it to go low. On the flip side, the person that is defending has the opportunity to parry you or counter you. If they figure out which way you're going and they press down, up, or they stay mid, then the flow of the game changes in their favor, and we've seen that demonstrated in a lot of the clips that have gone up online. So there's not one way to attack in this game, and you can't just mash buttons because the person that you're fighting will obviously clock onto what you're doing, you'll get parried, and the combo damage in this game is very high. On top of that, you also have vanishing. So if you read an opponent and you press, I believe it's guard at the right time, although again, it's been a long time since I turned on Budokai Tenkaichi 3, your character will vanish and appear behind the opponent. Sometimes you can just appear behind the opponent and start your own combo, and sometimes the character will kick the opponent away and then you can follow up with a rush attack or more vanishing attacks. Again, I can't remember the notations completely because it's been a long time, but there are multiple ways to follow up with the opponent. You also need to be careful though, because these sort of things consume meter. If you don't have the meter to do these things, then you're going to be stuck in place, and if you abuse your meter, you can fall into a fatigue state. Now, in the Dragon Ball Sparking games, fatigue basically operated the way stun does in Street Fighter. You're open for attack, and being open for attack in a game with characters that blow up planets, as you can imagine, is not a good thing. So you need to manage your meter effectively. That's something that people in the FGC will be used to, and it's something that adds a layer of depth to the gameplay. I know there's been some changes to the meter in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, but I don't think they're massive changes from Budokai Tenkaichi 3, and I have heard that they are positive, although I don't know the ins and outs of them, so I'm not going to comment. But for the most part, the meter seems very similar to what it was 17 years ago. Fun fact, if you play an Android character, the character will not charge up unless you're going into your fully powered up state. As you can see in some of the gaming clips, Android 17 will rely on the CPU to power them up. So you can freely fight with the androids, unlike the Saiyans and the humans and whatnot, and the game will power up for you, which is a cool touch because obviously the androids don't need to power up because they have an unlimited energy source in the anime. Speaking of the anime, they've gone through great lengths to reference a lot in the anime, but you'd be surprised to know that there are manga exclusive moves in this game. We've already seen Vegeta show off his Gamma Blast, I believe it's called. Now, I don't read the Dragon Ball Super manga, I'm hoping that they animate it soon. I have seen things here and there, but I do know that Goku and Vegeta have both demonstrated manga specific attacks, and I'm pretty sure other characters have them as well. There's been a lot of criticism about how the character select screen looks. I don't mind it too much, but I can definitely see why it would rub people the wrong way. But according to the developers and the people that were there, they're working on it and it's not a final build, so hopefully they clean up some of the fluff. There is an abundance of Gokus and Vegetas on these character select screens. The good thing is that after reviewing the footage and listening to the players that got a chance to go and play the game, I'm happy to tell you that the characters being separate on there actually have a purpose and a reason. If you play Super Saiyan Goku End, or you play Beginning Goku, or you play God third Goku, they all function differently, they have different attacks, they have different skills. So this means that you can specialize in one form. Now obviously you can power up and you can power down accordingly, but if you just like using Super Saiyan 2 Goku because he has a specific attack that you like or a specific skill, then you can do that. So I'm happy to say that it's not just fluff on the screen, and they are actually their own separate characters with their own applications. I think that's a really cool touch, and even though it looks a bit messy on the character select screen, at least there's substance behind it. Here's something that is not alien to the FGC, but movement is extremely important in this game. If you can't move effectively in this game and read your opponents, you're going to get absolutely blown up. I don't know how the blocking works in this game. I know that we've seen people deflecting blasts, although when the players went there, they seem to be getting hit by everything, but I think that's just a skill issue. Obviously they're new to the game, so they're not doing everything as they're supposed to. We know we can deflect blasts, but you need to be able to move around effectively in this game. Luckily it looks as fast as Budokai Tenkaichi 3, if not faster, so moving around is going to be a very important feature of this game, and I think we're going to see a lot of people really take it to the next level, because I remember watching Budokai Tenkaichi 3 tournaments back in the day and I didn't even know they could move around like that. So if this game has inherited the movement of Budokai Tenkaichi 3, then we're going to see a lot of cool stuff. I mentioned earlier that there are counters and there are parries in this game. There's even exclusive parries for some characters. I know Vegeta has a parry built into his moveset where he can get a follow-up from it, but there is also a thing called Emergency Blaster. The Emergency Blaster wave works similar to the way breakers work in Mortal Kombat, except the difference with the Emergency Blaster is that it seems to use some of your life to get the opponent off you. This seems to be a last-ditch effort defensive maneuver because it does take off a substantial portion of your energy, but it pushes the opponent away and it allows you some breathing room. So they have their own breaker style mechanic, although it has its own applications, and it'll be interesting to see how it functions in Sparking Zero. Now I spoke about the stages earlier, and it looks like they've gone through great lengths to make the stages very unique and play a part in the battles. One thing that I've noticed about this game is that you can create a lot of screen noise and you can disorientate your opponent by hiding in smoke and launching attacks, and because ki blasts are so fast in this game, your opponent will have to have amazing reactions in order to dodge them, especially the ultimates, because they seem to come out in blindingly fast speed. So it's going to be very important to not just stand still in this game. It looks like it's going to be high octane, intense battles from beginning to end. We don't have a lot of team games on the market right now. There's not a lot of team games being played in tournament, and from what I can see, you can do 5v5 battles in this. Now I don't know if this game is ever going to get picked up by the conventional FGC tournaments. I don't know if tournament organizers are going to take a liking to it. I would love to see them do that now that we know that local multiplayer is a thing, but this could be a 2v2 fighting game. I think it'd be very cool to have two characters. I think 5 might take a little too long, but you can get into some really cool setups with the 2v2s. I've seen some people switching their characters in and out mid combo, and from what I can remember about Tenkaichi 3, there was an element of strategy to it. Now I've mentioned the counters, the parries, the breaker style mechanic, but there are so many more defensive mechanics that allow you to push your opponent away or just make it so that you're not constantly being rushed down. Having said that, this game is also extremely offensive, so there seems to be a healthy balance between both. Now we don't know exactly what that balance is because the game is not out yet. Judging by what the content creators have said, it's very similar to Budokai Tenkaichi 3, which is really good because the defensive mechanics in that game were very strong and it gave you options for almost every angle of attack. The offensive options were very good because you had tons of tools to mix up your opponent. If you knew how to manage your meter correctly, if you knew when to use rush attacks or when to use ki attacks, you could really blow your opponent up in a few hits. I remember getting very good with Majin Vegeta and his combos. Majin Vegeta had a few different combo routes because not all characters are able to access the same light and heavy attacks, and so you can get very creative with the characters. This game also has last resort attacks, which are really cool. If you guys have ever watched Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super before, you'll know that characters like Vegeta and Android 17 have attacks where they essentially use their life force to destroy you. These are super high risk moves, but if they land, more often than not you're going to die. Now in this, we know that Majin Vegeta is playable and he has his final explosion, but the Dragon Ball Super version of Vegeta had mastered the attack, and so it doesn't take all his life, but he does still lose a bit of life from it, and Android 17 loses life from his as well, but he doesn't get killed by it. So those are going to be last resort attacks that are basically, if you're going to die, I may as well blow myself up and take you with me. I think that's going to be really cool to see in matches, but again, you've got to be very careful with how you use those things because you'll be left with 1 HP, and I don't think you're going to be able to do much in this game with 1 HP if I'm being honest. One thing the developers have stressed that they're doing is they are actually making the game unbalanced intentionally. So what that means is that if you have Vegeta fighting Yamcha is going to have a much harder time fighting Vegeta because Vegeta has has reached godhood. Yamcha is just a human, and so he's not going to be on the same level as someone as Vegeta or Goku or Gohan. What I think would be really cool is to have tournaments where you have characters capped at a power level, and then you have the really powerful characters. But that's not to say that you can't enter those super powerful tournaments with Yamcha. The developers did say that although they are making it intentionally unbalanced, it is not impossible to win with characters like Hercule when they're going up against Gogeta. It's just going to be a little bit harder. So that might be something that the more hardcore players want to take on as a challenge. I know me personally, I'm not interested in that. I'm going in with Majin Vegeta and Broly. You can pick whoever you like. I'm just trying to destroy planets out here. With this game being intentionally unbalanced, I think the way people look at it is obviously going to be different to the way we look at Tekken and Street Fighter. Those games are not designed to be unbalanced. They're designed to be as balanced as possible. With this game being designed to be that way, I have no issues with it at all. I think the only time we're really going to be asking for updates to this game is if there's glitches or things that are legitimately broken, like stages are not working or characters are not working. But in terms of being unbalanced, I think that's on par with what Dragon Ball is. You're never going to have a fair match if you're picking Hercule against Whis, for example, or Broly against Kid Gohan. And I think it's kind of cool they've designed it that way. So I think that even though your character might be very weak in the canon, I don't think it's something where we're going to be asking for nerfs and buffs, because it's just not that kind of game. It's not the way that I'm looking at it. Now what I'm hoping is that if Xenoverse is anything to go by, this game is going to get supported for a very long time. We know they have what if scenarios in the campaign. We know that there are multiple ways to play the campaign, although I don't think it's actually a campaign. I think it's episodic, so you play through Goku's episodes and Vegeta's episodes, which I actually don't mind because we have Kakarot and we have Xenoverse, and those are like the definitive experiences for Dragon Ball stories. Xenoverse is more like what if stories or alternate timelines, and Kakarot runs you through the Dragon Ball story. So I don't think we need to play through it again. We've played through it 100 times. I think them doing what if scenarios in this and having episodic battles with certain characters, I think that's pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to it. I actually will be trying it out. I was going to skip over the story because I've done it 100 times. If they're doing it in a different way, then why not try it? And something that people always loved with Dragon Ball games is that they had beam struggles. Beam struggles were like a staple of the Dragon Ball games. Luckily in this game, it seems like you're not going to have to spin your analog stick for those ones, although I've been told that there are multiple different beam struggles, and so maybe I just haven't seen it. However, there are also grab struggles where if two opponents grab at the same time, rather than it being a tech, you struggle to see who wins the grab. And there's also rush struggles as well, I believe, or melee struggles. I can't remember how they were triggered, but the characters will basically start punching and kicking each other at the same time, and the person that mashes the most wins. Now there is a mashing mechanic and there is an analog mechanic in those. I've seen those. I just don't know if it's in the beams, but I'm assuming it probably is for certain beams. Speaking of beams, if you hit the stages with certain beams, they will destroy them. We've seen Vegeta do that on Planet Namek now with Final Flash, where the whole planet erupts and you fight sort of like on this distorted version of the planet, which is obviously going to change the trajectory of how the game is played. So it's going to be very interesting to see how people use their beams, because I can imagine if the stage changes to benefit one character, someone might intentionally blow the stage up. Now there is so much footage of this game going around. I'm so upset that I couldn't go to the Summer Games Fest to actually play it for myself, but we're only about 3 to 4 months away from this game coming out, so I think I can wait. But it's looking absolutely fantastic. I am so happy with the way they've designed it. They've stayed true and faithful to the Budokai Tenkaichi series. I think the only gripe people have really had is that there are some glitches with the camera because of how fast the game moves. I have heard the developers are very receptive to this information and that they want to change things around, which is all good. We already know that they heard our cries for the local multiplayer and they've implemented it in the game. You can only use the hyperbolic time chamber, but maybe that's not such a bad thing, especially if people are looking to run it in tournaments, because you don't really have any stage hazards there and you don't have anything sort of blocking the characters. It's just a straight 1v1, straight hands, which is something we used to do back in the day. We used to pick hyperbolic time chamber if we really wanted to find out who the baddest was. There was no Namek, there was no Earth, we were just in this open time room, the room of spirit and time, and the best man wins. Now apparently this game is going to have 160 to 170 characters. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but that is a gargantuan number of characters. The old criticism that Dragon Ball games used to get of this nature was that although it said 150 on the tin, it was more like 70, and it was more of a valid criticism back then because the characters were genuinely very similar in their different forms. Super Saiyan 1 to Super Saiyan 2 wasn't a massive jump. In this game it looks like they use completely different attacks and it looks like they stayed very true to the source material, so I'd give more validity to them saying there's that many characters in the game. Obviously there's a lot of Gokus and a lot of Vegetas, but if they function differently, I'm not going to be too mad at it. The only thing that is going to hold this game back now is if the online sucks. If we can't fight people online, it is going to crush the game. The reason I'm not worried for it is because they've stressed multiple times that this game was designed to be played online. online. So I'm hoping and I'm praying to God that they do this properly, because we're gonna have so much fun with this game. So for any of you that are confused as to why the conventional FGC guys are excited about this game, it's because this is the arena fighter. This is the pinnacle of arena fighters. Ninja Storm, My Hero Academia, One Punch Man, any of those don't even come close to holding a candle to the Budokai Tenkaichi games. If you want a legit fighting game in the arena format, look no further. Do not use the arena fighters that you've seen like Demon Slayer as a basis to shrug off this game, because you're going to be doing yourself a disservice. This is going to be the cream of the crop. If it is a successor to Budokai Tenkaichi 3 like these content creators have said, then this game is going to absolutely blow, and you do not want to miss the train. I hope they support this game. I haven't seen any mention of GT characters at all, so I'm assuming they're going to be DLC characters, and I will pay for Super Saiyan 4. Let me just tell you straight up. I ain't even gonna lie to you. If they drop Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, they're getting my money. Hopefully it's not a ridiculous amount, because then I might have to question it. But if 170 characters apparently coming into the game, or something around that number, I ain't gonna be too mad if they're doing DLC drops for the next 10 years. The base game is already looking very, very big. Not to mention, you can create your own stories. And it's not just a throwaway mode. They showed it off. You can apparently literally create things down to a T. Now it is pre-selected dialogue, but there seems to be tons of options, and then you can upload it so people can play it online. To me, this game's a dream come true. I'm not often very excited about games, but this is probably going to be the most exciting release for me, and you guys are going to be seeing a ton of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero on this channel. I've also reached out to some content creators like King J, like Tendo, and some other people in the UK, and I've said, listen, the FGC guys, yo, we need to take this thing over. I know the guys in America think that they're going to run this thing. I know Afro Senju, C Reacts, Dota Doya, all them lot think they're going to run this thing, but they have no idea how good the UK man are at Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi. So we'll see. We shall see. But anyways guys, let me know if you're picking up this game. Let me know if you're going to be jumping on my streams to play this game with me. And if you're not picking it up, well, you can let me know and I'll pour out a cold one for you. Anyways guys, take care of yourselves. Have a good day and peace.